What it do, Washington Commanders Nation and NFL fans, no matter what team you're repping, it is the annual Rio and Stunner full first round mock draft. We are less than 24 hours away from the start of the 2025 NFL draft. Let's get after it. Per usual, got to have my guy on. We've done this for what? Is this our fourth consecutive year now?
I think this is our fifth draft though. 4 years,
fifth.
5
it is fifth. Yeah, it's five in a row.
Drafts. Yeah, we went crazy. We went crazy the first one in 2021.
And we've been ass since.
Haven't gone crazy since. So we trying to get back to the start of the tradition and hit like we usually do. But this is some of my favorite content. This is some of my favorite times of the year. I'm super excited, man. How about you?
I'm great. We love this draft shit. We treat this shit like Christmas. We gather as a bunch of grown-ass men. We eat and we watch the whole first round of the draft every year together. This is going to be the fifth year in a row, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. Time is flying, bro. I don't know if it's COVID. I don't know if it's me getting older, but time is flying. It's a little different this year. I think every time that we've been, doing this draft thing, doing this group chat thing, we haven't been a contender. We've been in the latest. I think we've been in the middle of the draft, and that's because we traded back during that time. So it's a little different this year. I don't even know if we making a pick at 29, but I'm super excited to spend some time with you guys. I got my Gator for Jaden shirt on because we did on the draft in honor of the draft season last year. So I'm super excited, man. It's time. I got the fat head. It's time.
Hashtag Gaden for Jaden.
Guess what? I don't care. I ain't even putting no Diddy behind it. All Diddy, bro. All Diddy, bro.
That guy changed our life during the draft last year. Y'all all saw our reaction. And like Jalen said, this is the first time we come into a draft in which we're contenders. We've had many crash outs on draft night. We've had some underwhelming, cool reactions. Tomorrow, you're going to get you're going to see an arrogant group chat. You're going to see a confident and arrogant group chat talking our shit with our feet kicked up while these 28 picks go before us because we're different now. So we're going to act like we're different now. Per usual with our full round mock draft, we divvy up the picks and each year we alternate who picks for the team. Jalen is picking the odds, and he has the first pick, and he has Washington's pick, and I'm going to be picking for the evens. Now, we pre-rehearsed.
It's a much harder task for me picking at 29 than you at 2 last year. That was money in the bank for you last year, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty easy, man. It was pretty. We all knew since Top Golf what the decision was going to be last year, but so when we're doing this thing, and we're running back and forth the picks that we're going to make for the show, are you thinking about us when you're making the picks, or are you being as objective as possible?
No, not necessarily, and let me tell you why. Because with us making this content, we go through it 12 months out the year, 365 days of people telling us, bro, you're just a YouTuber, you're just a content creator. What do you know? And honestly, I ain't gonna say that I feel them to a certain extent, but I will say that this is the time of the year where I do get a little snobbish because I know that you guys ain't been watching these players like me, and I feel like some of these players I know y'all don't watch the league like us. I ain't even just gonna say me and like the group chat boys, and I feel like we got a hit. Like the reason that this content and we've been doing it for 5 years is because we put out a banger. I don't know, we were like 70% round one. So I'm doing it in the mode of me trying to be as good as possible as a mock draft. I'm trying to be up there with like Peter Strager and them.
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, they're doing the same shit we're doing. If you believe that them guys on TV, because they work for a network, are watching every player in the draft, you would be sadly mistaken. Yes, there are tape grinders. There are tape grinders and ball knowers on these networks, but we're all playing a guessing game because nobody's mock draft is really out here hitting that crazy. But this one right here, we're about to get right back to the shits. My guy Marcus said, why did y'all let Fowler go back to Dallas? Because he was using his Twitter fingers and he wasn't letting his agent do the job for him. And I think he wanted a little more bag than we wanted to give him to be a one-dimensional player. What say you, Jalen?
And me and you can block him in the run game. He might be hell for us in the pass game, but we got him in the run game, bro. We got him
One.
in the run game for sure. I think that's the biggest reason. And yeah, him yapping on Twitter, then X or whatever they calling it nowadays.
Yep.
It did help his case.
Hell yeah. But let's not bury the lead. Let's get right to it. This is Rio and Stunner's mock draft. You are opening up the draft for the Tennessee Titans. I heard from Mike Borgonzi. Shout out to Mike Borgonzi. That was a group chat guy we had been rooting for a year. We've championed this guy for years. He said they already know who they're picking. I think the world does. Are you going with the consensus here?
I don't know. Not to bury the lead, but with the number 1 overall pick, the 1.1 of the 2025 NFL draft, I had the Tennessee Titans selecting Cameron Scott. Sorry, no, I'm joking. I had them selecting quarterback Cam Ward.
Yes, sir.
Quarterback from the University of Miami. I've been picking up on a couple of things. Like I said, I've been upset. It's been bad prepared for this video, but I've been watching a lot of Cam Ward prep video, draft prep things. And I noticed lately in a lot of his interviews, he's been telling everybody that he's watched a lot of Steve McNair. And I don't know if that's just a coincidence or he's trying to adore him to the Tennessee Titans. But this has been pretty much a shoe-in since, Senior Bowl week?
Yeah. It feels like he's been a lock for the number 1 pick for quite some time. And while his stock has remained the same, some of these other guys like Prime Son, it's been all over the place. But Cam seems like the most consistent thing. So I have a question for you. If Cam Ward was in the 2024 draft class with our boy Jaden Daniels, where would he have went between the 6 quarterbacks that were drafted in the first last year?
I don't necessarily know where he would have went because it's honestly like a pick of your own flavor. We see like how much connection and chemistry matters with like Bo Nix and Sean Payton. But I'll tell you where I would have had him ranked. I probably would have had him ranked fourth behind Caleb, Jaden, Drake May, and Penix. So that's 5th. I would have had him before JJ and I would have had him before Bo Nix. So I mean, 3 of those guys have shown flashes in the NFL, and I think Cam is the type of guy that can show that type of flash as well. I think he needs to play a little more in structure because I don't think he's the dynamic athlete that a guy like Jaden is that allows him to play out of structure and all chaotic. But if he gets coached up properly, I think he can, be a franchise quarterback for Tennessee.
He has this calmness about him. Like he has this chill demeanor. It almost feels like he's too calm sometimes. And I know it's not going to be the same in the NFL, but sometimes you forget you're watching a football game. He's standing completely still, just letting things play out and open up for him. And we love comps in the chat. Do you have an NFL comp for Cam Ward?
An NFL comp for Cam Ward. I see a lot of early career Russell Wilson with a lot of like staying in the pocket. I think they got similar body types. I've heard multiple people, and that's how people get stuck with running with a narrative during draft season, comp them to like Patrick Mahomes, and even like going down to like him and Patrick having similar body types. I don't really see that. I see he's a little bigger than Russell Wilson, but his willingness to stay in the pocket. He's not a super athlete, but he has a little wiggle to him like Russ. Russ was one of the better scrambling quarterbacks in the league when he was younger. I don't think that Cam has that extended play capability, but I think it might be like just a tick below.
Okay. I like it. How
about you? What's your comp for Cam?
My comp for Cam Ward. Oh, somebody said their comp is Josh Johnson. That's not right.
That's crazy.
That's kind of foul. It's something about, I hate it that like we get stuck when we're talking about black quarterbacks that we always have to put a black quarterback for. So we automatically throw. I'm gonna throw a name around like Steve McNair, for Cam Ward, but not the same body type. But it's crazy. Like modern quarterbacks, I don't have a modern comp for Cam Ward. Like he doesn't really remind me of anybody that's currently playing quarterback. Like you said, early career Russell. Like he doesn't look like anyone that's playing right now, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get that. And if you want to just kind of like separate yourself from like the race association, which I totally get, I totally understand it because we do it with wide receivers as well. Every wide receiver is Josh Edelman or Cooper Kupp, right? But I can kind of see Drew Brees in his game a little bit as well. shorter quarterbacks. I see the willingness to stay in the pocket, like you said.
Mhm.
Sometimes you forget that you're watching a football game when you watch him. So you know he's tough as nails, and he's been in 3 programs in college, and he changed the fortunes of all 3 of
Yep,
them.
he succeeded at all of them. So they're getting a good quarterback at number 1. Number 2, my first pick of our 2025 mock draft. The Cleveland Browns starting quarterback right now is Joe Flacco. They brought back Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson's nursing an injury, but
Freaky Sean gone.
Freaky Watson is ass though. So we don't even have to discuss. They don't have a quarterback. And they still don't have a quarterback because at number 2, they're taking the best player in the entire draft, in my opinion, and it is Travis Hunter out of Colorado. The interesting question is, how will he be utilized in the NFL? He said some cap ass shit a couple weeks ago about how he'll quit football forever if they don't allow him to play both ways. Do you think he can really keep up in the NFL being a full-time cornerback and wide receiver?
Like it always is with the draft, it's really like fit. So if I'm projecting him to the Browns, I don't know, because are we using him as a wide receiver? And like you said, is Joe
Yes.
Flacco throwing him the ball? And if
Yeah.
are we using him like a DB? If we're using him like a DB, I think he has, with the Browns, I think he has a foundation where it allows him to develop outside, on the opposite side of Denzel Ward, who's still a top
Mhm.
10-ish corner in the
Mhm.
game. But yeah, you're not going to see him playing 90% of the snaps throughout an entire game like you saw in Colorado. You sadly mistaken. I
We
wonder
are.
what fantasy is going to look like for him. I've been thinking
Oh
about
my
that for a
God,
while.
that's crazy, yo! You about to see a wide receiver with interceptions on his stat line for fantasy?
Do
How
I get
that
some
work?
points for that? Like if he get a
Yeah.
pick six, do I get some points for that?
Yeah, that's crazy. He's gonna be a cheat code for people.
They
He's
got
gonna
to be
be.
like a defensive special teams, but he got to get it on his own too.
I'm drafting him as a wide receiver that can play cornerback. They still got Denzel Ward, Emerson, and Newsome there have been trade chatter for Newsome for 2 off seasons in a row. At some point, the chickens are going to come to roost for Greg Newsome there in Cleveland. So you got another cornerback you could work. Like, how does this work? You leave wide receiver film study and you go run to the DB film study as well before practice? Like, how does this work? Because in the NFL, it's a little different. You got a lot more system to take in and to digest. But if anybody can do it, it's this kid. He's a freak, man.
He is. I'm not sure if it can work. That's why I say I think
Mhm.
we can put him in there in a pinch, but if he plays offense or defense, I think he's gonna have to be like a package type player, and I think it's just easier for him to do that on the offensive end.
I agree. I agree. And ding, ding, ding. We have our first trade of the 2025 NFL draft. It's a 1-pick swap. If you notice, the order of the draft changed. The Patriots saw somebody and had the urge to trade up with the New York Football Giants. The Giants now pick at 4. The Patriots have just jumped up to 3 to select.
Yeah, similar to the trade that the Houston Texans had with, who was that in early 2023 when they went up one spot?
Was it
Was it
Arizona? Was it Arizona?
It was Arizona. Yeah, similar to the trade that they had with the Arizona Cardinals, where they moved up 1 pick in the first 5 picks. I have the New England Patriots moving up 1 pick, with the Giants collecting maybe a future first and maybe a third in 2026. And I have the New England Patriots drafting edge rusher Abdul Carter
Ooh.
from is it Penn State? Yeah, it's Penn State
Penn State.
University. From Penn
Yes,
State
sir.
University. Let me not get it wrong, because I know you got a slew,
Mhm.
a wide demographic of fans. Somebody from Penn State going,
We
"All right,
are.
yeah, they're gonna correct me in the chat. Late might come in here and correct me in the
Yeah.
chat.
Lake might
From
just
Penn
pop
State
up.
University. And my reasoning behind this is I'm kind of glad that you opened up the platform to disassociate ourselves from the race comparisons, because hear me out. I think Abdul Carter is 2025 Mike Vrabel. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Ooh.
Who Mike Vrabel, who is the current head coach of the New England Patriots, and the
Mhm.
reason that I say that is because having an off-ball rusher that can, cosplay as an edge, an off-ball linebacker that can cosplay as an edge rusher is in vogue in the NFL nowadays. We got Frankie Louvu doing it, Micah Parsons, we got Zach Bond. Vrabel was one of the first
to
of his
do
kind.
it. Huh?
He was one of the first of his kind playing that off-ball backer with the Dynasty Patriots in the early 2000s. Cosplaying as an edge rusher, there was years where he had over 8 sacks while collecting over 80 tackles. So I think that out of all the head coaches, I think that Mike Vrabel would be the one that utilizes Abdul Carter the most appropriately, and I think that he'll reach his ultimate ceiling, which I think can be a Pro Bowler with a guy like Vrabel in that New England Patriots system.
Okay, so aggressive trade up. They saw a guy, they had to have him. They could not let the Giants have him, and they take him at number 3. We got the New York Football Giants with the church-like quarterback room between Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. They're going to be at the pulpit breaking down the team every Sunday. They need a young quarterback desperately. Unfortunately, we will not be taking a quarterback here for them. It is Russell Wilson season for now, but stay tuned. Maybe that changes sometime soon. They're not drafting Shedeur Sanders here, so I think maybe they should give it a try. Daboll should be trying to hitch his wagon to a young quarterback. Him and Joe Shane should be trying to do whatever life raft saves their job, and old quarterbacks are not going to save your job. I'm going with the guy that people think is going to fall out of the top 5 because he got little arms. I'm going with Will Campbell out of LSU. I don't care that he has shorter arms and all these physical things people are talking about. He's a really good tackle. He's a very good tackle. He's good with his hands. He looks the part on tape. He looks like a top 5 tackle type. Everybody's on the Armand Mimbu train, especially since they seen the combine. But before all of these testing things and metrics started, Will Campbell was like the runaway consensus first tackle off the board. We're going to keep that here. The Giants have got more protection for the young quarterback that they do not have on the roster right now.
Let me ask you something. So if you're the Giants and you drafting Will Campbell, is Andrew Thomas going to right tackle? We playing Will Campbell at guard? What we doing?
Oh. No, we're not.
I mean, I'm all up for drafting, great football.
Andrew Thomas not going nowhere. He has to stay where he's at. But we could put Will Campbell at the. He might have to play guard in this league.
T-Rex arms. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. He might have to play guard in this league, but we're gonna put him out there right tackle and see how it goes. We're gonna give him the sheriff experiment that Washington did. We're gonna see if he sink or swim. Because I think he's good enough. Yeah, I think 5 days of tackle and see how it goes. And I'm taking Will Campbell for the Giants. Best lineman on the board. You ain't got no young quarterback to block for, but you got a lineman that the whole war room would probably support the pick for. And now the Jags are on the clock at number 5.
Campbell gonna be blocking for that boy Arch next year. He gonna be blocking for that boy Arch. They stocking up for Arch next year.
Yeah, they making picks for the next coach and the next GM too.
Absolutely. Moving on to the 5th pick in the 2025 Rio and Stunner mock draft, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting what is proclaimed to be a generational running back in running back Ashton Jeanty from Boise State University. And here's my reasoning behind it. As an annual Travis Etienne fantasy football owner, I can tell you he's ass. He's ass. I'm sorry. I'll try to keep this as PG as possible, but Travis Etienne has lost me a couple of Sundays where I'm catching PTSD as I speak about it. And I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars are trying to still churn every ounce of whatever generational talent that we were told that Trevor Lawrence had. And I think they're going to try to do that with them giving him an extension and pairing him with a playmaker, a dynamic playmaker, a generational playmaker, and a guy like Ashton Jeanty. Brian Thomas Jr., Ashton Jeanty, Trevor Lawrence, oh my.
No, I like it. So what are we doing? What are they doing with Travis? Are they taking calls on Etienne at this point?
Bro, they benched Etienne in the second half of last season.
They did.
Travis Etienne might not be a Jaguar by Saturday at 5:00.
You're probably right, man. Because I remember
season, Ashton Jeanty season, and yeah, no.
Every time I hear Tank Bigsby, I think about how Trevor Lawrence had a minute and a half to beat the Eagles last year and decided to throw a bomb up the left sideline to Tank Bigsby with so much time left in the game.
Generational talent, sunshine, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and he has to show up this year or he might be cooked.
Absolutely, and I think that's why they're going to do everything possible to get him as many weapons so he can't show up.
Okay, So I am on the clock now at number 6 for the Las Vegas Raiders. Made a big trade and extended Mr. Geno Smith. There's a guy that you comp to this guy available if they want a young quarterback? Or are they saying, you know what? We got our bridge starter and we're not really too concerned with taking a first round quarterback. Let's do something to add to the fact that our floor just dramatically raised in one offseason because you go from Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew and just trash quarterbacking to a nice, solid, productive quarterback in Geno Smith. I know what Al Davis would do. He would pick the fastest player on the board. Well, I'm going to pick the most athletic and fastest lineman on the board. Armand Mimbu is coming to protect Geno Smith and company here in Las Vegas. Doesn't feel very Raider-like and sexy, but that's a very good pick for them. And we're protecting the guy that we just gave, what, $45 million plus to?
Yeah, I like that move. It doesn't feel very Raider-like. But the Raiders are a shit show. They got to start somewhere. Somewhere, and I think Armand Member was a good foundational piece for them to start with.
Brady got to teach him the way, man.
Hey, Rico is crazy. Hey, yo, Rico is crazy.
Oh, he might be saying like Rico is live right now too. Right. That would be crazy because you don't Rico look nothing alike. That would be hilarious.
But I guess we moving on to pick number 7.
Pick number 7, the Justin Fields-led New York Jets. Very confusing offseason for the Jets this year. What are we thinking?
I feel like this is pretty chalk. You know, Rio and Stunning, we don't really do chalk, so that's why I ain't put Mason Graham to the Jaguars because I feel like I've seen that in every mock draft online. But I can't deny the fit. I can't deny the fit, and that's Tyler Warren to the New York Jets with the 7th overall pick. Fun player. I know it says tight end, but this is a guy that can play fullback. He can play running back. He can play wide out. And I think that he got a lot of personality. He said that John Riggins was his favorite player, right? So I think that
why he wears 44.
He wears 44, and we know how much personality Riggo had. So I think he's going to be a media darling in New York, and I think he fills a need. The Jets, who is the Jets? Can you tell me the Jets tight end right now? Is it CJ Uzomah? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and I don't think Uzomah's there anymore, so they definitely need one at this point.
Yeah, so it's number 7 to the Jets, tight end Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Penn State had some plays this year.
They sure did. And that moves down to number 8 in the draft. The Carolina Panthers, man, they finally showed some life out of Bryce Young. Maybe it was the benching and him realizing, y'all got me fucking playing behind Andy Dalton at this point of his career. We're not talking about young annual playoff trip Bengals Andy Dalton. We're talking about old wash, lost to Marcus Mariota 40-7 Andy Dalton. And we could go Will Johnson here to pair with J.C. Horn on the outside, but I'm going to go get Diet Micah Parsons. I'm going to get another guy that plays that tweener role you were talking about earlier from Abdul Carter. We're going to get Diet Abdul Carter from the University of Georgia Bulldogs. Jalen Walker is going to be the pick for me at 8 for the Carolina Panthers. I like Jalen Walker. It seems like people are very confused whether they love him or they're meh on Jalen Walker.
I'll tell you, I'm meh on Jalen Walker, and that's saying a lot. Me and him got the same name. But I think that his Georgia counterpart, Michael Williams, is going to be a better NFL player than he is. When you hear a guy like Jalen Walker, a lot of things that they first talk about is like, leadership and characteristics. I never hear about like his on-field play first. And that's because he leaves a lot of plays on the field. That tweener position, I think he's like a jack of all trades, master of none. He could be a good player in the league. I don't know if I'm spending a top 10 pick on him though.
It's crazy. People are going to start screaming at us very soon because Mason Graham is still out there and available 9 picks into the draft. And will his fall stop here in New Orleans?
Hell no. Let them scream at us all they want. Let them scream all this. Let them scream at us all they want. Because with the ninth overall pick in the 2025 Rio Center mock draft, I had the New Orleans Saints selecting cornerback Will Johnson from the University of Michigan.
Okay.
The Saints lost their top two wide receivers over the last 12 months. Cornerbacks in Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo. So they desperately need a youth injection in that room. Will Johnson has had the off season from hell. But the last time he was on that field, he was a player. He was a player. He was a better player in 2023. But he hasn't done anything in a football game to drop him outside of the top 10, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Will Johnson. So are we not concerned with the injury this season and him currently having hamstring issues at this point of the draft process?
I'm a little bit concerned about it, but I always thought that Will Johnson was like, I never thought he was a dynamic athlete. He's a technician. And scouting DBs is what I do. But I see a little bit of, like, to be honest, Josh Norman at his prime when I see Will Johnson. Ooh. Josh Norman wasn't like a dynamic athlete. And when he was on his P's and Q's, it was because his technique was elite. Mm-hmm. And I think Will Johnson plays with elite technique most of the time.
Yep. And moving on to our quote unquote rivals, they made themselves our rival now, the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams and company. There's been chatter that they're trying to move up for somebody, that they've been making calls in the top 3 and 4 of the NFL draft. But here they are staying at number 10. They made a couple moves this offseason to protect Caleb Williams because he was running for his fucking life last year. And as a rookie in that stupid ass Shane Waldron offense that takes a lot of time to process and stuff, he was holding on to the ball too long, on top of the line not being great. I know we acquired a couple of linemen this offseason. Well, we're going to acquire another one here. It seems pretty easy. Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas to Chicago. I considered taking a back for them to add to DeAndre Swift or another weapon for them on the outside with Keenan Allen not coming back. But I think the best move for them is to eat your vegetables and get another big boy up front.
Protecting their $200 million investment in Caleb. I ain't mad at it at all. So I know you said that you was thinking about giving him a back, and I'm so glad that you didn't, because I think this might be the first hot take pick, the first shocker pick of the 2025 mock draft. And at 11 overall, I have the San Francisco 49ers drafting running back Omarion Hampton from the University of North Carolina.
You mean to tell me Shanahan's going to draft a running back before day 3?
I think so, because the last we saw Christian McCaffrey, he was playing on a bionic leg, and that gave out. Christian McCaffrey is going to year 9. We know a running back shelf life isn't that long. Christian McCaffrey is a dynamic potential Hall of Fame back, but I think he saw his better days in the NFL, and I think Kyle Shanahan is the type of guy that sees the value in having a running back like Omarion Hampton. I think Omarion Hampton is scheme diverse. You can run him in power. You can run him in that stretch zone system that the Shanahan's run, or you can run him in a zone-based system. I think that Omarion Hampton has that type of talent. And, Omarion Hampton in our first shocker. I think is that Michael Penix to the Falcons level shocker? I don't know, but it's up there.
Yeah, it's not on that level, but it's surprising because the Shanahans do not be taking running backs early. They love them a day 3 and make it work with them because they like system type guy. Omarion Hampton off the board. I think the Dallas Cowboys were a little hurt because I think that's where they were going at number 12 in this mock draft. But then we pivot. Instead of adding a back here for the Dallas Cowboys, I know they want a skill player very bad. You know that they have a good track record drafting linemen. There are edges on the board, but nope. Dak needs another toy to play with on the outside, and CD needs a partner in that wide receiver room. I'm not believing all of this smoke. I'm not believing Todd McShay putting this guy as his 50th ranked player. Well, when you add all the positions up, it's not that crazy. But we're going to stop the slide of Teteroa McMillan, and he's going to join CeeDee Lamb in that wide receiver room in Dallas. And they've got them a nice little 2-headed monster at wide receiver. Got them another possession receiver to boot. Our cornerbacks better get ready to get up there and get some jump balls.
How you feel about Marshawn and Mikey against CD and Tech? Be honest. Be honest.
Mikey is small, man.
Be honest. Be honest.
Mikey is small. I don't want Mikey running that fade, but I think we're gonna get, if we get Marshawn with 2 working hamstrings, we're gonna see a different type of dude in 2025 because it can't look like it did last year. He got to fit in. He was fitting out last year. He got to fit in with the program this year. I like Marshawn, but we could definitely use some more size in the cornerback room, though.
I hope so. I like Marshawn too, but you tend to not get healthier as you get older.
Yeah,
But let's move on to the Miami Dolphins with the 13th pick. I had the Miami Dolphins selecting cornerback Jahdae Barron from the Miami Dolphins. Jahdae Barron's from the to the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins hated their secondary last year, like the entire room. Like they're trying to get rid of Jalen Ramsey. They released Kendall Fuller. They let Javon Holland walk. So they need an injection in that room, just like I said with the Saints. And a guy like Jahdae Barron, who's versatile, who can play. I think he can play every position outside of maybe strong safety in the secondary, and that includes free safety. He can play in the nickel. I think the nickel is his blessed spot, but if you want to put him out in the boundary in a pinch, like a Mikey Sainristil, he can play that as well. And that's my comp for Jahdae Barron is Mikey Sainristil. So 13th pick to the Miami Dolphins, Mikey Sainristil. I mean, Jahdae Barron.
He literally made him Mikey
Sainristil 2.0 side now. Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas.
I know Ron would have got bricked up watching Jahdae Barron just to say position flex 1,000 times because he can literally play anywhere on a secondary and no matter what type of scheme you run. That's a good pick for the Miami Dolphins. Ramsey is probably going to be in the move on the next 72 hours. Up next, we have the Indianapolis Colts and the nastiest quarterback competition in the NFL here. You know, Anthony Richardson, who looks every bit of the raw prospect. That's why you got to be careful when you go with all projection players. We know all of this is a projection because you're projecting guys at the next level. But the fear is when you take a guy that has never succeeded before at a level and tell him to succeed at a much harder level, it's a tough hill to climb. So Anthony Richardson, and then last year, he subs himself out a game. So on top of assing it up on the football field, you got things to add to it, and you make yourself as a target. Brother, as a black quarterback, they're already looking for any reason to doubt you. You can't do that. You can't do that. So they're learning, they're paying the price for drafting a player that was very, very raw and not ready yet. And now he's competing with one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL for a starting job. Let's try to make their job easier. When your quarterback sucks, it helps to have a safety valve in the offense. Colston Loveland, they wanted Tyler Warren to fall to 14, but it's not very likely he was getting there. We're going to get the guy that we think is more athletic than Tyler Warren. Colston Loveland's coming on down. I don't know if it's going to fix the accuracy of either quarterback, but it should give them some assistance in their process as they see what they are, because Shane Steichen is a very good offensive mind. If he could just get some adequacy out of a quarterback in that weak-ass division, they could make the playoffs.
Yeah, if the Colts could leave this draft weekend at any point with a tight end, I think they'll be ecstatic. They've been feel like they've been trying out Mo Ali Cox out there for like 16 years. Like,
shout out to Mo.
VCU. Yeah, shout out to Mo. VCU
shout out to Mo.
Getting it done, but I think it's time. I think it's time, Mo. I think it's time for a successor. But moving on to 15, and you asked me at the beginning of this mock draft, did I draft with Washington in mind? And I think this is, and I told you no, and I think this is a example of it, because honestly, this is my favorite prospect for Washington in the entire draft. But I have him going to the Atlanta Falcons at 15, and that's defensive end pass rusher Mykel Williams out of the University of Georgia. And it pains my heart to say that. That's why I'm stuttering over my words right now, because I really want him to be a Commander come Friday morning if we draft him at midnight. Mykel Williams in the backyard of the Falcons. Nobody has seen him more with him playing down in Georgia, and this is a guy that was a top 5 projected pick before this past season. And the reason that he had a down year is because he was playing on essentially like a peg leg after week 1. Like he literally played the entire
and he
season.
played through it. He played through it.
He played through it though. And that's one of the reasons why I think they want, I want him to be a commander because I think he fits that commander tag. But just speaking in terms of the Falcons, they've been looking for a pass rusher since John Abraham. Like Big Beasley gave him that flash in the pan year, then he turned neo soul. Like I don't know what happened with Big Beasley.
Neo soul.
but parent, edge rusher, a front seven player out of the University of Georgia. He doesn't have to lead a state. So I gave the Falcons Mykel Williams out of Georgia.
Mykel Williams, man. I wouldn't have minded him falling to 29 if we're keeping it a whole buck. I got Kyler and the Cardinals coming up. I feel like, just like we talked about Trevor Lawrence earlier, it feels like a very put up or shut up. You got the bag, Kyler Murray. I think they need to see something from him. They need to see something from him this year. We know his little ass struggles to see behind offensive linemen, but we're going to continue to protect our guy. We're gonna beef up the offensive line a little bit more, and we're gonna go Tyler Booker here. We're gonna go. Oh no! Hold on. Did I go here? Did I go? Yeah. We went Booker here. Yeah. Tyler Booker, the big beefy fat bastard from Alabama that just he aesthetically not pleasing, but when you watch him on tape, he's nasty. He's nasty. Nothing's getting past him. I don't believe he's going to fall to the end of the round like some of these mock draft people have been talking about. And can you believe Mason Graham is still on the board here? What is going on? Is he coming off this board anytime soon, Jalen?
He's coming off the board right now at 17 to the Cincinnati Bengals.
There we go. That's a team. This is a home run.
At 17 to the Cincinnati Bengals, they're arguably the best value pick of the Rio and Stunner mock draft to this point. You get the number 4 player on the PFN big board. Rio, I think me and you could have ran for 150 yards on the Cincinnati Bengals last year. It's ultimately the reason that they didn't make the playoffs. And while I think that Mason Graham gives a little more as an interior pass rusher than he does in the run game, I think he can be coached up. And at this point, not only could we rush for 150 on the Bengals, we could start on their defensive line. So getting a guy like Mason Graham there can potentially propel the Cincinnati Bengals back into contention and playoffs at least.
Okay. Mason Graham, the slide finally stops. Y'all don't shoot, I think there's chatter that he can slide a little bit in the draft, man.
He got those T-Rex arms too.
Yeah, he also has little baby arms, little gator arms, and you know how they get during the draft. The NFL is very picky and finicky about certain things, but the slide of Mason Graham stops. You know who's kicking and who's punching air right now? Jim Harbaugh, because he just knew his Michigan guy was going to keep sliding to him a few picks more with the Chargers, but there may be another Michigan Wolverine waiting for him when we get there. The Seattle Seahawks are on the board. It is now the Sam Darnold era in Seattle, and Seattle needs a few things. This is another spot I was thinking about with maybe Gray Zabel or Tyler Booker going line to protect Darnold, but I think their line is all right enough. They let DK Metcalf and Lockett go this offseason. So Jackson Smith and Jigba is currently sitting in the living room like the last episode of Fresh Prince. He's in there by himself. There's no furniture, no boxes or nothing. He's just standing in that hole lonely. We're going to give him some help, and we're going to give them some speed on the outside. Sam Darnold can sling it when he has times. Matthew Golden is going to be my pick here for the Seattle Seahawks. 4.28 speed. Was he running 4.28, right?
I think it was 4.29, but
4.29 speed. He don't play 4.29 all the time, but he's capable of running it. You're gonna get them another target on the outside for Sammy D, and makes sense to me.
Golden ran a COVID 40 at the combine. How that work?
Yeah, the COVID 4, where they was just handing everybody 4.2s and 4.3. He ran one of those at the because that tape don't say it, but he's plenty fast enough, and he can hit wind with the ball in his hand.
Absolutely. I like that pick as well. Get Sam Darnold another toy to play with. Pause. No diddy.
They said shades of Jonathan Allen falling to us at 17. Remember, because Jonathan Allen's supposed to be a top 3-4 pick. Remember,
he was supposed to be the number 2 pick at one point.
Yes.
Before
the best defensive player in the
shoulders. Them off-running shoulders started creeping up out of nowhere.
That's crazy that we've never had to discuss that since he's been here too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It is. He stood the test of time, and I wish him all the best at in Minnesota. But it's time to move on to the number 19 pick, and I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafting all Commanders social media first team defensive end Mike Green. If you listen to any Commander fans, they'll tell you Mike Green is the second coming of Lawrence Taylor. And while I
Yep.
don't think he's that good, I think he is a damn good player. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got so desperate for pass rush at a point last season, they signed fat Shaquille Barrett back, right? They signed fat Shaq Barrett. He was out there with the pregnant belly, and they was just trying to make it through the season. So they get them a young, dynamic pass rusher, and I think he's the best pass rusher that was still left on the board at 19, and Mike Green out of Marshall University.
Our fans do have an affinity for Mike Green. I'm not going to lie. So I guess we're starting a trend right now. I guess this is the heartbreak zone of this mock draft because this is when some of our fan favorites start coming off the board right when they're just about at arm's reach from coming to this team. Because I'm on the clock with the Denver Broncos, He got Sean Payton last year, got his Dollar General Drew Brees. He got his budget. He got his EBT Drew Brees and Bo Nix. And now he is in search of someone that can make that offense more dynamic. He needs his Costco brand Alvin Kamara in that offense. He needs a running back over there that is capable of making big plays, making Bo Nix's life easier, someone that's capable of taking a screen to the crib because Bo Nix was getting a lot of help from his running backs and receivers last year in big plays. There were a lot of plays where he threw it horizontal and guys were taking it. Well, their running backs left. So they need one of those. I'm sorry, Washington Commanders Nation. Jalen forced my hand when Hampton came off that board early. Travion Henderson, you are a Denver Bronco, and I think that's a beautiful fit in Sean Payton's offense.
I'm sorry, Commanders Nation. I didn't mean to. I didn't know the chain reaction that was going to happen with me trying to make a hot take pick. My fault. Yeah, I'm a little depressed. I ain't even got too much to say about those problems because that pick because yeah, if that happened, come draft night, I probably like go upstairs and I talk to y'all.
That's gonna be like when Garrett Wilson went one pick before we picked.
Yeah, my foot was hanging off the couch when I fell off that joint.
Yeah, that was.
You mentioned that I had a comp for this guy when we talked about that earlier in the episode. Ooh. And I feel so vindicated. I feel so vindicated from the draft season because I called this guy Gino with a Rollie during the season. I said, he just don't do it for me. He just don't do it for me. And when I say Gino with a Rollie, I say Geno Smith. And y'all were like, what? I ain't going to just say you, but it was people in the group chat were like, oh, bro, you're talking crazy. He's a top 5 pick. I said, no, he's Geno Smith with a Rolex and a rap song. And it's okay.
And a famous father.
And it's okay. Because guess what? Geno Smith was a damn good college prospect as well. And the guy that I'm talking about, if y'all haven't gotten a clue yet, is quarterback Shedeur Sanders out of the University of Colorado. I think I've said enough. I really think that Shedeur Sanders is Geno with a Rollie. He's Geno with bravado. Geno Smith with persona. I think that, if George Pick is able to, make it and still survive, make it through the weekend as a Steeler, I think that this can be a damn good fit. I think the best thing that Shedeur does is throw the deep ball. And then you got 2 deep ball demons and George Pickens and DK Metcalf. This can look like a, old school, like bombs over Baghdad type offense. And I think that this is potentially the best coaching fit for Shedeur. Somebody that's going to keep his ass in line when he start rapping perfect timing when he start throwing the rollie up in the end zone.
That weak ass song. Gino with a rollie. For those unfamiliar of what a rollie is, he's talking about a Rolex watch. He's talking about Geno Smith with a Rolex watch and a famous daddy. But Shedeur does things well, but his process is slow and he's not very mobile or athletic. But I've seen much worse quarterbacks go in the first round of the NFL draft. So I think some of the slander of Shedeur is a little bit because he's arrogant. He's he talks like his dad, and he's not that. He's not that level of prospect, but he got the genetics. He got the bloodline. Don't got the speed or the athleticism. Neither does Shiloh or the cameraman one. But Bucky, Deion Jr. But I mean, that rubs people the wrong way. Hey, I'm all for it. Whatever team, they're probably going to have to be forced to draft Shiloh on day 3. As a
you gonna waste that Mr. Irrelevant pick on him, huh? Here you go, damn. Here you go, damn.
I think there are a couple places where Shedeur could shine in this league, and I think this is the best spot. So I like this fit. Shedeur in Pittsburgh. They don't have a quarterback right now. They're in here discussing trades for Kirk Cousins or waiting on that hippie to make a decision. I don't know why anyone's waiting for Aaron Rodgers in the Lord's year of 2025, but they can use one. If Shedeur manages to get drafted here and they protect him, he can get the ball to DK Metcalf and George Pickens and company. But if he can't get the ball to him, they're probably going to fucking jump him or something. So I'm going to pray for him if he's up there, man.
He going to get his brothers.
They're going to run up there with the whole family.
With the camera. Well off media ass whooping.
They're gonna document the whole thing. I'm up next at number 22 with Jim Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers. Defensive tackle is their number one need. We were praying that our Michigan boy that we just coached a couple years ago, Mason Graham, fell to us. But you know what? There's another dog right next to him as well, and his name is Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant, come on down. Does Jim Harbaugh even need to scout players that he coached and recruited in college? This is an easy, like a glove fit for this team, a team that needs to beef up front. You could add a weapon on the outside at wide receiver, but I think they'll just spin the block in the second round for a receiver.
Let me ask you a question. Did you give Kenneth Grant to the Chargers just because of the Michigan ties? Did you pick him over Derek Harmon just because of the Jim Harbaugh Michigan ties, or do you think he's a better player?
I think does Harmon have an injury or something?
I think he has like injury history.
It's his medical history. His medical history has people talking like they think he's going to fall to round 2. I think Harmon is the better player, but the history is scaring people off. So I'm like, maybe Kenneth Grant is the better fit here because it's a product you know exactly what it is, and there's no medical history that's going to scare you off the pick.
I'm not mad at that. I
think Harmon's better, though.
I like that pick. Moving on to pick 23. This is also a pick that I had in mind when thinking of the Commanders because I just want this player off the goddamn board by 29 so the Commanders don't have to pick him because I've seen him mocked to the Commanders too many times and I'm about to crash out. And that's cornerback Maxwell Harrison out of the University of Kentucky. As a Washington Commander fan, I'm sorry. I know this might be lazy, but after experiencing the Emmanuel Forbes experience firsthand, I can't get with Maxwell Harrison. I see too many comps. Like I said, it might be lazy, but there's some sting comparisons there. And I want to stay as far away from him as possible. But speaking in terms of the Green Bay Packers, they've been looking to get rid of Jair Alexander for a couple of years now. Eric Stokes is a bust. They need some corners, especially going against that NFC North where you got, the Vikings wide receiver core, the Bears loading up on wide receivers and things of that nature. So Maxwell Harrison to the Green Bay Packers at 23.
And every Washington fan just had a gasp of relief. Because
Me
they
too.
don't want no part to that. Remember, this will be the Josh Rosen draft. Shout out to Chosen Rosen.
There was some dogs in that draft, though. That draft was OC out of Josh Rosen.
That draft was crazy, man. And I wonder if he's like an astrophysicist or some shit now. I wonder what he's up to these. He out here working with Neil deGrasse Tyson or some shit. That was a smart dude. Bad at football in the NFL, but that was a smart dude. But that takes us to the Minnesota Vikings at pick 24. It's about time that they re-up on a safety. Harrison Smith starting to get long in the tooth. We need to go get us one of the we get to choose between an athletic freak projection player or just a solid all-around, not as high ceiling, but a very high floor player. Malachi Stark, someone you are not that high on, Jalen. I'm taking him here for 24 for the
Um,
Minnesota Vikings.
I like him for Minnesota though. That runs a lot of like zone blitzes and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, where they're not actually asking him to man up and sliding things of that nature, what Georgia was asking him to do at times, and I don't think he'll be able to do in the NFL. But it kind of makes sense for Minnesota. I do think that the athletic safety prototype kind of burnt them with the choice of Lewis Seen a couple years ago. He turned out to be not much of a player for them. So I can see them kind of like being, wary of bringing in a guy like Nick Emmanwori, who I like better than Malachi Starks, but they do need some safeties in that room.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Malachi Starks and Harrison Smith as he's almost to the twilight days of his career, which takes us to number 25, the Houston Texans.
I don't know what the Houston Texans are doing. They arguably had the worst offensive line in the NFL last year. Then they got rid of their best player, and they gave him to us in
Shout
Larry.
out to them now.
Shout out to them. Thank you for them. But I don't know what they're doing. So I had to pick some lineman of some sort. And I'm going to go ahead and pick the lineman that they say can play all 5 positions on the line because he might have to with the Houston Texans. And that's Ray Zabel. We ain't going to call him a guard, a tackle, a center because he can play all 5 legit. And that's Ray Zabel, lineman out of North Dakota State.
Okay, great Zabel out of North Dakota State. CJ Stroud needs some protection over there. You know, he can scoot at times, but mobility is not his strong suit. And, you know, everybody was talking about the sophomore slump that Stroud was on and wishing it on Jaden. Listen, if that was a sophomore slump for Stroud, he still won a playoff game in back-to-back years and went toe-to-toe in Arrowhead Stadium in the second round of the playoff with a chance to win that game late. If that's a sophomore slump, we'd be all right over here in D.C. But we're down to the L.A. Rams. They just lost Cooper Kupp this offseason, but they add Devontae Adams. So is Devontae and Puka Nacua on the outside for the Rams. We're going to keep adding to that defense. They hit on 2 Florida State Seminoles last year and Fisk and Verse, and we're going to add another weapon, another tweener. That's been a trend in this draft class so far, a linebacker that can project as an edge sometime. We're going to stop the slide of a player too, a player who I think could have been top 15, top 20, but there's been medical history as of late. I believe, did he just have surgery? Is that Jihad Campbell? Did he have surgery or something?
How you get hurt after the combine? Like, I wonder what his workout regime is.
Yeah. What the hell was he doing?
Labor after the combine. What the fuck was he doing?
Yeah, he was pushing it too hard, brother. Get drafted first.
Absolutely.
Get drafted first.
I like that pick for the Rams, though. I do, and they loaded up on young defensive prospects.
They're scary.
Kind of contrast from them, like with the aging veterans on the offense. I like that little mix.
They're scary over there in LA. I'm not gonna lie, man.
All right, I ain't gonna lie to you. With my next 2 picks, the fan base might crash out on me. I know this is they might spaz on me in the chat with both of my next 2 picks, but guess what? I don't care. Thank you for the support, but I don't care. Because with the 27th overall pick in the Rio and Thunder 2025,
Don't you do it, damn it. Don't you do it, damn it.
I had the Baltimore Ravens selecting all-pro Commander social media defensive end out of Boston College, Donovan Ezaraku.
I will remember you.
Donovan Ezaraku, because guess what? We've heard rumors of the Baltimore Ravens being interested in Donovan, though. There have been murmurs of that being out there, and we know in Baltimore they want to load up on defensive prospects. I don't think a guy like is he going by? What's his American name? Jonathan Owe. What is he going by? Adafa Owe, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I don't think he's panned out to be the prospect that they expected him to be. Cal Van Noy's getting a little longer in the tooth. And yeah, I think Donovan Ezaraku is somebody that fits the Ravens profile. Team captain, Baltimore built Raven, like Raven football. When I look at Donovan Ezaraku, he screams Baltimore Ravens.
It screams Ozzie Newsome, Eric DeCosta pick because they just draft well. See, I want him to go in the top 15 or top 20 so I can have time to breathe. What my biggest fear is him going to one of these next 2 places, which is the Ravens or the Lions, because they could both use another edge there, and those are both good fits for him. The Ravens just take our guy, and Well, my guy personally, and now the Lions are on the board. They're also going edge with their pick. They're going to pick the most solid guy that there is in this class, and that is Nick Scorton, Texas A&M, at the 28th pick. Just a solid guy all around. There's nothing sexy or splashy to his game, but his Purdue tape, he showed that he could finish and actually get some sack production, unlike his teammate that is across the line from him. And now Jalen is up picking for the Washington Commanders with a board that says Shamar Stewart, Derek Harmon, Nick Emanwari, Josh Simmons, Walter Nolan, Emeka Ibuka, James Pierce Jr., Trey Amos, Connerly Burden, Donovan Jackson.
I noticed you was a little excited to do the evens this year. You wanted the fan base to come jump me with this pick. You wanted them to come tell me that I'm a bozo and I don't know what I'm talking about with this. I noticed that. I peeped your game, bro. I peeped your game, but thank God that I don't care. So like I said, I know the fan base might crash out with me over this pick, and I'm not gonna lie to you though. When we were going through this exercise in pre-production, I was a little hurt when you went with the pick that you're going to make at 30 because I just completely oversaw this player. It was a complete oversight, and I wouldn't mind that player being drafted by Washington at 29. But I'm not going to bury the lead. And the player that I have the Washington Commanders drafted with the 29th overall pick is safety Nick Emanwari out of South Carolina. And the reasons that I said is that if you look at all Dan Quinn defenses, literally every single one of them, a big safety has been a staple of it, whether that be Keanu Neal in Atlanta, whether that be J-Ron Curse in Dallas, whether that be Jeremy Chin last year, or whether that be Cam Chancellor in Seattle. And we do not have that physically imposing player in the safety room right now. People telling me when we did our war room and we ultimately ended up drafting Nick Emanwari that Will Harris is the answer, and they didn't know about Will Harris 2 months ago. They couldn't pick Will Harris out of a lineup 2 months ago. Now, all of a sudden, he's the next Ed Reed. No, we don't have that game-changer type of talent in the defensive back room. And I think that he has that versatility where he can cosplay as a big safety, but he can also play in the post as a free safety. He can play in the slot with his frame, with his dimensions. And I think that when Dan Quinn has been stressing his positionless football, him watching a lot of basketball tape and things like that, I think Nick Emanwari is the ultimate guy that he's talking about. This is a guy that was a team captain, and he was just turning 20 years old. He's going to be playing next year in his year 21 season, and there's a high ceiling for Nick Emanwari. I know that he associates himself with the Philadelphia Eagles, but I encourage Washington fans, go listen to what Greg Cosell says about Nick Emanwari, where he says he's by far the best safety in the draft. I know I'm going on my soapbox, but I'll probably have to remove myself from the room if we draft Nick Emanwari at 29 because y'all might be asking me what the fuck is going on in my pants.
Bricked
tomorrow, to be 100% honest with you.
I think we're smacking high fives in the room together tomorrow if Nick Emanwari's the pick. I know people don't see, like, listen to Adam Peters when he speaks, y'all. Like, this, what we've done since the trade deadline in this offseason is we've allowed ourselves that we know we still got needs on this roster. And a playmaking safety falls somewhere on the needs list. Is it the highest ranking thing? No. But a talent like that is possibly one of the most, if not the most athletic safeties in the league at 21 years old. He can also force turnovers. He had 4 picks, 2 pick six. Every time he gets an interception, he's liable to take that shit to the crib. Like, you saw him moving on that LSU pick that got called back, the pick 6.
He looked like Tyreek Hill, bro.
Yeah, man.
He looked like Tyreek Hill. He's 50 pounds heavier.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and he's not a box safety either. Don't look at the build.
No, he's not. I think he's better in the post. But if you want to put him in there in the box in the pinch, he can play that as well. He had 52 solo tackles as a college safety. And people talking, I hear Twitter scouts talking about run lanes. Well, guess what? When you got 4.2 speed, sometimes it allows you to have bad eyes because you can catch up.
Hey, man, they had some sneaky talent on the Gamecocks, man. They got some talent all around that roster, and now we're picking at 30. So as the Buffalo Bills are on the clock, cornerback, I see Derek Harmon. I see pretty much any cornerback I want on the board, but plans change when people that you do not expect to be on the board. So there's an edge staring me at the face. You know, when you have a projection player that is all genetic lottery and no production, you know who's the perfect fit for a team like that? A Super Bowl contender like the Buffalo Bill. Shamar Stewart, you are a Buffalo Bill. Easy pick. They can sprint that in. They don't even got to let the time go off the clock. And now we are at another trade here in 31. The Kansas City Chiefs have traded out of the first round of the draft because why do they need a first rounder, you know? And the Cleveland Browns are on the board. Uh-oh, is it quarterback season for the Browns?
I'm just going back to your pick really quickly. Like I
Yes,
said,
sir.
I kind of did the Arthur fist when you made that pick because I just completely overlooked Shamar Stewart. I think Shamar Stewart can be a damn good prospect for the Commanders. I think Nick Emenwari can be a good prospect. Shamar Stewart, Nick Emenwari, and Michael Williams are probably my three favorite prospects for the Commanders on this draft eve. So yeah, I did the Arthur fist a little bit when you made that selection, but that's a good pick for the Bills because they need some edge help because they was trying to revitalize the corpse of Von Miller for a couple of years.
Hey, Stunner, you want to take this one? You want to take this question for real quick?
What's the difference between him and Tyler Owens? 7 rounds. What? What are we talking about?
We all want Tyler Owens to eventually get on the field, but we're talking about undrafted versus first round prospect type player.
And I like Tyler Owens. I came back and
too.
told y'all when I saw him at
Me
training
too.
camp. He's a crash out demon on special teams. But
Yeah.
like there's some things that Nick Emenwari has shown on tape that Tyler Owens never showed in college or the NFL.
Yep.
I'm sorry. It just
in the
is.
SEC. In the
It
SEC.
just is what it is. I like Tyler Owens though. I think that
Same.
they are comparable. I do think that Tyler Owens can play some post as well as in the box. So if you want to say that they're similar players, but don't ask me what's the difference. Like you don't notice it, bro. Like nah, it's a 7 rounder.
Yeah, did you see Jaden Hartman and Mariota with their black Caps jerseys on at the playoff game tonight?
I did. I gotta tap in. I gotta tap in as soon as I get off this.
Yeah, man. They're sitting front row right by the ice and watching the Caps playoff game, and they all have custom black Caps jerseys on.
Superstar Jaden and his best friend.
And the Caps are up 2-1 in the game in the third period right now as we're getting ready to close this one out and a couple more picks. The Browns just jumped up. Are you pairing Travis Hunter with a quarterback of some sort?
Tyler Owens, bro. Tyler Owens. All right, let me stop. Yes, I am. With the 31st pick, I have Cleveland trading up with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs get that top pick at the top of the second round. And I have the Cleveland Browns trading up for the quarterback, Jackson Dart, pairing him with Travis Hunter if you want to put him at the wide receiver, but potentially giving them a quarterback of the future in Cleveland.
What am I missing about Jackson Dart? Because nothing about him says first round quarterback to me.
Consistency. But when he flashes, bro, he flashes. I watch a lot of SEC ball. It's consistency, and I think people question that Lane Kiffin scheme, and I think they question like, can it translate to the NFL? You know, he takes advantage of those wide hashes a lot and things of that nature. Like I said, the consistency questions are warranted because one play he'll look like Jayden Daniels, and then the next play he'll look like Josh Johnson. So I mean, it's consistency for sure.
Ole Miss, the most stacked team that don't ever accomplish shit in college history. I swear, bro. They have so much fucking talent, man.
That Lane Kiffin effect. He ain't coaching them boys up for real.
They have so much talent on that rock. Like you could draft an Ole Miss player with good value in any round of the draft this year. They are stacked. And to close out the first round. Matter of fact, before I make this pick, this is when the conversation starts. Okay, we took Emenwari at 29. What the board finna look like in the second round? The board is gorgeous right now. We got Harmon, Simmons, Nolan, Abuka. James Pierce has not been drafted yet. So apparently those character issues were a problem for people. Watch how fast a guy like him and Luther Burden come off in the second round. Amos is still there. Connor Lee. So based on this board right here, what would be our game plan for day 2 of the draft?
I'm determined to get Brian Robinson out of that RB1 role. I was tempted to call him Brian. He don't even deserve the last name at this point.
Brian Keith.
Brian Keith. I'm determined to get a starter over Brian Keith. So I would be looking at the running back position. It was a run on him in the first round. So I think that the pickings might be slimmer than what we expected before we did this exercise. But running back, edge. I think the edge pool is deeper than what I expected. You still got Landon Jackson, James Pierce, JT Toom, whatever you could, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, edge or running back is something that I would look at in the second round.
Yeah, it would running back, edge, corner seem like the easy fits, unless something stupid like Luther Burden sitting there at 61 that you like kind of have to take at that point. But the board would look beautiful going into it, man. They said Brian lost his name. He's now Ryan.
Nah,
But
fact. He lost everything.
speaking of Ole Miss, we're closing out this round. Those damn Philadelphia Eagles had another ridiculous talent fall to them at 32. Walter Nolan, also of Ole Miss, is going to be a Philadelphia Eagle, and that is our class. Is there like a full look? Yeah, full results. Here we go. This is our first round mock for 2025. Another year in the books, Jalen.
Another year down. Another year down. Wait, next year be the 6-1. We getting old, Slim.
Yeah, I know, pushing the other side of a decade almost coming up, but the Hampton pick is the first thing you look at like, whoa.
But isn't that always the case come draft night?
It's always
like ever since we've spent the draft together, we've always every year we've had an instance where we're like, whoa.
Christian Gonzalez fell to us and we didn't take him. So we know what it looks like.
Yeah, and almost passed out.
Okay, so your favorite pick of yours and your favorite pick of mine in the first round.
Let me look at the board real quick. Let me look at the board.
I'll tell you what my favorite pick of yours is, and that's Ezaraku to the Ravens. That is so Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah. It hurt me to do that one. I'm not even gonna lie to you. My favorite pick of yours would probably be I like Stark, and I'm not high on them, but I like the fit of Starks to the Vikings
with Flores
or Golden to the Seahawks. I think I like both of those picks for you. And then my favorite pick for myself, would probably be. What was your favorite pick for yourself?
My favorite pick I made in this class, Mimbu is a good one, but nah, it's not Mimbu. Let's see. Oh, I hate Dallas, but I think Teterow and McMillan, that's a fire pick for them.
Yeah. And to be honest, bro, my favorite pick might be in that Warrior to Washington, to be 100%. I'm not trying to just say that because we made that. I like the Abdul Carter fit to New England as well, but I was trying to get away from the top 3.
Oh man, I like the consistency. In our war room, we took Emanwari.
I'm so glad George brought this up. Rio, let's talk about it, bro. You low-key Eagles fan, bro. Let's talk about it. You on your Jakey Rondo shit. Walter Nolan to the Eagles, bro. I'm gonna say you on your Jakey Rondo shit, bro. What we doing?
Tell me it don't make hella.
You about to start streaming with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith tomorrow.
That
you about to
feels.
Draft party and go stream with the Eagles wide receivers. You think you slick, bro?
Chill, man. That sounds like some Howie Philadelphia Eagles shit right there.
Yeah, let the board fall to him. It does. I can't even lie.
I like the consistency that in our war room together, we took Emanwari and you took Emanwari here. Do you got anything coming before the draft? Are you going to do a final prediction, a final mock, or just a prediction for 29 or anything dropping in the morning or in the afternoon?
Not going to do a video, but stay tapped into the page. We're going to be, tweeting, posting all day. And then definitely an emergency power reaction video for not only the first round, but we're going to do them for all 3 picks for day 1, round 1, day 2, and day 3. And I think I'm about to go to the draft party on Saturday, so I might be vlogging out there.
The harbor? The harbor?
Yeah, I might be vlogging out there a little bit if I do.
Okay, definitely do that, man. The Eagles always get somebody, Pat. Pat, one of our Eagles fans in the chat, but Per usual, you already know the vibes. Tomorrow at about 7:15, 7:30, we're going to start streaming from our annual group chat draft party. You know, anything is liable to be said when we're all sitting in a room with microphones in front of us. So we will be there. Make sure y'all tune in to this draft party and y'all rock it out with us, because we might be waiting to about 11:57 p.m. Eastern Standard before Washington makes a pick, and they can inevitably trade out of that pick. So it could be a long night of waiting and conversing about other teams' pick, but we're doing so in an arrogant and confident fashion because we are a contender now. Jalen, one more time, let folks know where they can follow you and sub up your channel on your way out.
At Bleeding BNG, at Bleeding Burgundy and Gold, YouTube channel. Like, subscribe. We cutting up in the comments at all times. So you feel like that, you get that one-on-one interaction. Available on all podcast platforms and on social media. We stir the pot over there on X. We're Commander Twitter pot stirrers over there on X. So go ahead, tap into the page, tap into the channel, and I appreciate all the support.
Hell yeah, man. Let's cross our fingers and see if we can get our good graces of 2021 back, because it's been quite some time since we spanked them on our first round mock. But this is different than a lot of the mocks.
I think we might be on to something this year. Yeah,
ours, it feels different this time, man. We might have hit on some of those. Let's get us like 7 or 8 picks right this year out of 32. But appreciate y'all for rocking with your boy. I'll have a video up sometime tomorrow about my prediction for the Commanders' first round at some point in the morning. I will see y'all on stream tomorrow. One more sleep until the 2025 NFL draft. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Talk soon. Jaden Daniels, MVP season approaching.